friends, this is Laura Lynn at Rancho, and gosh, I miss you guys. This building is awful quiet. I can't wait to get back together with you. But we're here. We're going to do our best to be together during this crazy time, and we want you to know that we are praying for you. We have staff praying for you. We have the prayer warriors out, and because we care for you. The other morning I woke up and you guys were on my mind, that I just asked God to give you the peace that surpasses all understanding, was the prayer that came to me, and we just love you. I can't wait for us to be back together. Got a couple of things for you. I am putting together a group of volunteers that are going to be calling all of the seniors in our community. So we have a form on our rancho.tv/live where you can fill out that says, yes, I'll help. And then if you are a senior in our valley, or if you're someone in need, we want to know that as well. So go to rancho.tv/live, and there is a form there as well. We just want to connect with you guys.
I raise a hallelujah in the presence of my enemies. I raise a hallelujah louder than the unbelief. I raise a hallelujah. My weapon is a melody. I raise a hallelujah. Heaven comes to fight for me. I'm gonna sing in the middle of the storm. Louder and louder, you're gonna hear my praises roar. Up from the ashes, hope will arise. Death is defeated, the King is alive. melody. You surround me with a song of deliverance from my enemies till all my fears are gone. I'm no longer a slave to fear, but I am a child of God. I'm no longer a slave to fear, oh, but I am a child of God. Oh, from my mother's womb, you have chosen me. Your love has called my name. I've been born again to your family. Your blood flows through my veins. I'm no longer a slave to fear, but I am a child of God. I'm no longer a slave to fear, oh, but I am a child of God. I'm no longer a slave to fear, but I am a child of God. I'm no longer a slave to fear, but I am a child of God. Oh, you split the sea so I could walk right through it. My feet were drowned in perfect love. You rescued me so I could stand and say, I am a child of God. You split the sea so I could walk right through it. My fears were drowned in perfect love. You rescued me so I could stand and say, I am a child of God. I am a child of God. I am a child of God.
All right, here we are with Elaine Romero. She is the executive director and therapist at Safe Harbor Counseling Centers here in Temecula, California. Elaine has been a tremendous resource for us for so many years, seeing so many people and helping so many families. And as we go through this crisis together, it's a global crisis. We're all in this together. We want to talk about how we're handling this, how our families are handling this, how people who are already struggling before this and how they're coping, as well as how we as a global community can really come alongside. So first question I have is, in terms of sort of self-care through this, our emotions are going through a lot. That may impact how we treat other people. How can we exercise real self-care through this crisis?
Well, I think the biggest thing that I've really been thinking about, and even as I'm talking to some of my clients already right now online, is to remember that we all may respond to this differently, right? In your family, people might emotionally respond in different ways. And an important part of that is honoring that. to honor that we are emotional beings. We might have some fear, and we have to allow fear to even exist in this. And letting our kids talk about their concerns, or letting older parents talk about their concerns, but also helping then the family balance that as well too, is that like we want to be able to talk about our emotions about it, but also remember the more rational side, which is this too shall pass kind of thing, and that there's certain parts that are in our control, and there's certain parts that are out of our control. And so reminding not only ourselves, but, kind of our kids, like, let's talk as a family, like, what kind of things can we be doing? What's in our control? Like things like washing our hands and exercising, that social distancing, enjoying our time as a family, but then remembering the parts that are out of our control. And I think it's good to be researching things and learning things online, but I think we also have to remind ourselves and our kids to sometimes just like step back and say, let's take a break from watching the news. Let's take a break from, reading all the articles, because it can start to, you can catch that residue of the fear and the anxiety of everyone on social media, and it can start to kind of really weigh you down. So focusing on balancing in the relationships, in yourself and in the family.
That's good.
If that makes sense.
It makes perfect sense. I had a little interaction this morning. We got 7 people in the house, and like a lot of people do, we're all in this together, and tensions were just getting a little high this morning. And my tendency is to just kind of wipe those away,
Right.
And almost to discount
Like
people's
dismiss
feelings,
it,
dismiss
kind
it,
of.
and that's not healthy. So, and you've helped me with this a lot, is to say, okay, those have to be honored, like you
Right.
said. People have to have permission to feel what they feel. But then to work together to say, all right, why are we feeling what we're feeling? Let's discuss that, and then properly hold that.
Right.
And that might help us to move on. I think if we dismiss those emotions, then perhaps frustration then rises, right?
Right. So letting the fear and the anxiety actually exist, but helping people balance it.
Right,
That's
good.
kind of a good way to look at it. Of course, the other thing that I would recommend is just small pockets of self-care. So things like really it's easy to ignore actually like being, having exercise, like so getting out for a walk, sunshine, vitamin D, even nature in of itself. There's a lot of studies that show
good.
that can calm us down. My husband and I last night went on a walk, and we started to move into all the stressful things. And we were like, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to stay positive during the walk. We're going to let this be something that replenishes us. So we called it our gratitude walk. We were
That's good. I like
going to
that.
talk about like what's going good right now. So little pockets of self-care like that. I would also say, if you can incorporate some relaxation in your life, whether it's meditating on God's word and prayer, some people really like to do yoga or even other type of meditations. There's a great app called Calm
Yeah, I've heard that.
online. That's just a good one that can help people walk through some things to kind of care for self.
That's good.
So yeah, exercising, taking time away from the media, focusing on the good. That would be the other thing I would say too is, gratitude. There are a ton of studies out there right now that do show that in our culture, we focus so much on what we do and what we achieve. And we feel like that's going to make us more happy. And even now, people are like, do. How much can we do to fix this, right?
Yeah.
Control it. There's a lot of studies that show that if we can be present in a moment and take some time for gratitude of like what is good coming from this, like family connections and some downtime, that actually can help our emotional well-being. It actually leads to a deeper sense of joy. So finding little ways as a family to do that would be really important as well.
That's great. You mentioned kids earlier as well, and kids handle these kinds of things differently depending
Yeah.
on how they're wired, how they are emotionally,
Sure.
how they process information,
Right.
what they hear. So, one of my kids may not be taking this as seriously as as perhaps they should.
Yes.
And so, little kind of light on some of the things that, best practices. And so that's
Right.
one kid. The other kid tends to be pretty quiet, and we've got to pull some things, out of her.
Yeah.
And so, what would be some tips for parents in terms of navigating this with their kids?
Yeah, so that's a real struggle. We're all kind of being forced to spend a lot of this time where we're hunkering down, and that can bring up some problems as well. I think that you've got almost like a nightmare for both the extroverts and the introverts, right? Because the introverts we need to charge their batteries by time alone, and yet families all in their face, and the extroverts need they like the big crowds and things like that. And so that's tough because they're not having that kind of social networking. And so it's kind of honoring, knowing as the adults, we have to look at the different kiddos in our homes. I mean, this is a nightmare for teenagers, right?
Oh, yeah.
Their world is spending time with friends. So it's like, and now they have to hang out with parents and family.
Yep.
So it's not shaming them for that.
Right.
But again, letting them talk about their feelings about it and their frustrations. I've got a senior who's really bummed that a lot of things are.
She's missing a lot of her senior life.
It's my
here.
son, actually.
Yeah.
He's missing a lot of, his graduation. We don't know what's happening with that. Right. So it's honoring those feelings and those emotions, and again, letting them talk about it, but then also like trying to kind of see like, okay, this person's more an introvert. We need to give him a little time. This person's an extrovert. Maybe we're going to get them on a FaceTime call with grandma and grandpa, or get them on, like a group texting thing with all their friends, So finding ways to kind of let each kiddo deal with this in different ways. Yeah,
that's a sad thing for a lot of people is, your son's missing out on a lot of senior year issues. There's a lot of grief as well.
Right.
So it's not just the social isolation. There could be some real grief taking place where they're missing out on, they almost feel as though they're being robbed of some of their best experiences in life.
Right. And again, that's where we come in balance. It's like, hey, it's, it is sad. Like his 18th birthday is coming up and we can't do our event we planned. But on the other hand, let's remember what other generations went through at 18. True. We had guys being sent off to war, right? And so it's helping them balance to see the larger picture in this too, is that things like this do happen in life sometimes. Even if we think about what Paul says in Philippians, right? That we need to be content in a place of plenty, but also in a place where we're in need, and to really stand firm in God's love and in Christ's love. And so it's a real opportunity, I think, for teaching of our kids too, that life brings different seasons, and some of them are planned, some of them are not planned. And how do we together, work through that?
This last Sunday we focused on the promise of Jesus that in this world you will have trouble.
Right.
It's not a very happy promise to claim all the time, but he says there is peace there. In me you can have peace.
Right.
And it seems
but we grow from those things.
Absolutely, 100%. And it seems in the household dynamic, parents set the tone a lot. And if parents can kind of process as a team, if there's mom and dad, two parents there, process as a team on how to kind of strategize, how to talk to kids, how to set some boundaries that need to be set.
Right.
That could be important. There's also single parents out there that are probably struggling more than a household with two parents.
Yeah.
Anything you would say specifically to single parents?
I mean, I would even just say, all of us do need to be thinking about who in my circle and my family of families do have a circumstance like that, whether it's a person who just went through divorce and now they're going, I have to go through this on my own, or a single parent who's trying to manage things and they need someone to come alongside them. Or you may have the older, senior who's used to functioning on their own, but they're being told to stay home. You know what I mean? So I think we have to really think about all those different type situations, or even blended families where they're not with their kids right now because they're with the other parent. Those things are tough. And I think it's important for us just to be reaching out, calling our friends, kind of saying, hey, what can I do to support you during this time? I know it's got to be tough. Acknowledgement is key. There's a lot of studies that show that we don't have to necessarily fix people, but if we acknowledge the situation they're in and acknowledge, hey, this has got to be hard for you.
Who they are and how they might be hurting, and just bear that with them. Yeah.
Yeah, just to say I'm present with you. Even I'm not in your home, I'm here. That's the beauty we need to be celebrating about technology right now.
Oh yeah.
Is that we can be with people even though we're not side by side.
And to also look out for people who we know in our sphere, and it could be a concentric circle of even acquaintances where we know, okay, for example, I've got some elderly friends, and they are quarantined.
Right.
And to be able to just call them on a regular rhythm. I've got a couple people just calling once a day, and I've never called them once a day, but this is the time to kind of do a little bit extra. Right?
Yeah, just even
look
that
out for
text
people.
or that
Right.
way to kind of be. I always think about, when Fred Rogers talks about that, about when his mom when there was scary news, and she would always say, look for the helpers. And I think that had a lot to do with what you said in that sermon. Like, we need to be light in this. We need to be Christ in this. And kind of what, Fred Rogers was saying, who are the helpers? And we need to be the helpers in this, even if it's just a text,
that can mean the world. Let's talk about people who have already struggled with some form of emotional difficulties, whether it's stress or anxiety. They were already wrestling through these things.
Right. So
then
pre-existing
situation. How? And then the world is kind of collapsing then around them.
Right.
What are the unique ways that they can be helped and that we can help them?
Yeah, so if you can think about now how you and I actually feel maybe a low level of anxiety a little bit, imagine the person who suffers from anxiety. This is tough. Or someone who suffers from something like OCD or even depression. When you have a pre-existing either mental health illness or even that you're just a pre-existing problem, like you are, you're going through divorce or you already had financial problems and now you don't know what's going to happen. It's pretty scary. And so I think that, again, it's important for those people that if you had a pre-existing issue and you're in some kind of therapy, whether it's with us at Safe Harbor or a different therapist, make sure all therapists out there are still, we're on the front lines. We will provide you telehealth counseling. We have shut our actual office doors, but our virtual doors are open and we're still holding all of our sessions.
That's great.
And it's important that you have those places and those people to talk to and taking care of using the tools that you've already been taught to continue to use them during this time. And if maybe you are going through something and you're realizing, I just feel like I'm kind of cracking under the pressure, you can call out now. We've had actually several new people call us right now to say, I need to talk to somebody right away. And we'll get you all set up.
Yeah. So don't ignore the help that is out there.
Don't ignore the help that's out there. That's a great,
I think as people are kind of getting more isolated, people who rely on that kind of help, they might start getting into their corners and may not get the help that they need. They've got to be very proactive, and then those of us who love them to make sure that they get the help that they need.
For sure, because sometimes my response, say for someone who's depressed or even anxious, is they want to isolate. And this is an easy time for them to do that.
Because everybody's isolating.
Right, and so it's important for us to be reaching out to, I know my team, I had said, every single one of your clients, whether they're like actually active right now or not, if you know they struggle with anxiety, OCD, or whatever, I want you to be reaching out to them because people will tend to isolate during this time. So.
Well, you mentioned earlier that this is a time for us to be our best, and we certainly have that opportunity. This is a time for those of us who can be helpers to help. And, every day we have these choices am I going to look out for me and my own, or am I going to really proactively do the harder work and make sure my neighbor's okay, make sure the senior down the street is okay, make sure I call my parents or grandparents that, I may not have called on a regular basis. I'm going to give them a call, looking out for one another. And that's where the light of Christ is going to shine through us.
For sure.
And so thank you for this time. I appreciate it. You've been such a huge help. And I know during this crisis, you're going to help out so many people. And you're helping out the whole world right here, right now. So thank you very much.
There will be links online for people to give us a call. Like I said, we are all taking all of our sessions, and there's quite a few of us, so we'd love to help out.
And so that's not just locally, that's
anywhere, really.
Nationally, internationally.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a little office set up, and I've got my FaceTime ready to go.
That's fantastic. So. All right, Safe Harbor in Temecula. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for joining us. Elaine and Scott are such a calming voice in my own personal life, as I know that they are to you as well, and I'm just blessed to have them here with us today. And don't forget, this Sunday at 9, 10, and 11, we are going to be together again live at rancho.tv/live. Join us. It's going to be another great time of worship and an incredible message.